Halloween is supposed to be fun, a night of costumes, candy, and harmless scares, a night where people pretend to be something they're not, just for a few hours. But every once in a while, someone isn't pretending. In this video, you'll hear 3 disturbing true Halloween stories, where things didn't go the way they were supposed to. Stories where a normal night of trick-or-treating turns into something far more dangerous. A festive event hides someone who shouldn't be there at all, and a quiet Halloween night at home becomes a fight for survival. These aren't ghost stories. There are no supernatural creatures, no demons, just real people in the wrong place at the wrong time. So before you relax, before you convince yourself it's just another scary video, ask yourself one question. What if the scariest thing about Halloween is that no one knows who's behind the mask? Turn off the lights, put your headphones on, and let's begin. This happened on Halloween night, about 2 years ago. At the time, I was 22. I'm 25 now, and even writing this still makes me uneasy. I work as a community coordinator, which basically means organizing events, dealing with people all day, making sure everything runs smoothly. That particular Halloween was exhausting. We had a full-day festival. Kids everywhere, games, contests, parents, noise, the whole thing. By the time it ended, I was completely drained. All I wanted to do was go home, eat something, and pass out. I made it back to my apartment around early evening, dropped my bag, and barely had the energy to sit down. That's when my phone rang. It was my younger sister. I'll call her Savannah. She didn't waste time. "Can you take me and Jackson trick-or-treating?" Jackson is my nephew. He was 11 at the time. Savannah was 15, and like always, when nobody else wants to do something, it somehow lands on me. I honestly didn't feel like going, but I could hear it in her voice. She was excited, and I didn't want to ruin that. So I got up, threw on some clothes, grabbed my keys, and drove over to my parents' place. When I got there, Savannah was still getting ready. She had gone all out. She was dressed as Raven, full costume, even the pale face makeup. Jackson, on the other hand, was dressed as Sub-Zero. Honestly, he looked pretty good. Once they were ready, we got in the car and headed out. I took them to a busy neighborhood nearby. The kind where every house is decorated, lights everywhere, people out on the streets. Safe, or at least, it should have been. For the first hour or so, everything was normal. Kids laughing, people complimenting costumes, candy being handed out. At one house, this older guy was grilling hot dogs instead of giving out candy. He handed Savannah and Jackson each a hot dog and a soda, smiling like he'd been doing this for years. Said he preferred giving kids real food. It was weird, but in a good way. Nothing about that night felt off. Not yet. Eventually, we reached the end of the street. It was getting late. Fewer kids around, lights starting to go off. We decided to head back to the car. It was about a 10-minute walk. That's when I noticed them, across the street, standing in a yard. No porch lights, no decorations, no movement, just a figure, dressed completely in black. At first, I thought it was just another costume. It was Halloween, after all, but something about it felt wrong. They weren't moving. They weren't interacting with anyone. They were just standing there, facing us, watching. I slowed down a bit, tried not to make it obvious. Then I leaned slightly toward Savannah and Jackson. "Stay close to me," I said quietly. "There's someone over there. Don't stare." Jackson laughed, thought it was someone trying to scare people. Savannah didn't laugh. She looked nervous. She knew me well enough to know when I was serious. We kept walking. I glanced back once. The figure hadn't moved, but something about the way they were standing. It didn't feel like a joke. It felt like they were waiting. We were about halfway back to the car when I heard it. Footsteps, heavy, not quick, not random, deliberate, right behind us. I turned my head just enough to see. It was the same person, but now I could see more. They weren't just wearing a costume. Black boots, black pants tucked in, a vest, tactical, and their face completely covered. That's when the situation stopped feeling like Halloween and started feeling real. "They're behind us," I whispered. "Don't stop walking. Don't turn around." Savannah stiffened. Jackson went quiet. We kept moving, trying to act normal. trying not to show anything. But I could hear them, step, 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 same distance, not getting closer, not falling back, just following. By the time we reached the car, my heart was pounding, and they were still coming. That's when I made a decision, a risky one. But I didn't see another option. I told the kids to get ready. Then I turned around and pulled out my gun. I pointed it straight at them. "Why are you following us?" I said. They stopped immediately, then slowly raised their hands. For a second, everything went completely silent. Then they reached up and pulled off the mask. It was a woman, early 30s maybe. Her face was blank. No fear, no anger, just empty. "I'm an undercover officer," she said calmly. "I was investigating a break-in." Her voice didn't match her expression. It sounded rehearsed. She kept talking, saying I looked suspicious, that she thought I was involved, that I should lower my weapon. For a second, I hesitated. But nothing she said made sense. Why would an undercover officer dress like that? Why stand in a dark yard? Why follow us instead of identifying herself immediately? I asked her. She didn't answer. She just stared at me. And then she smiled. Not a normal smile. Something colder. Something wrong. "If you didn't have that," she said, glancing at the gun, "this night would have gone very differently." That's when I saw a movement from the sides, between the houses. 4 more people, all dressed like her, walking toward us. Same gear, same blank expressions. That's when everything clicked. This wasn't random. "Get in the car," I said. Savannah and Jackson didn't hesitate. They jumped in. I backed up slowly, never taking my eyes off them, then got in and drove. Fast, in the rearview mirror. She was still standing there, still smiling. The others weren't. They just watched. The entire drive back was silent. I dropped them off, made sure they got inside, then went home. I thought it was over. It wasn't. A few days later, I got a message, unknown number, no text, just a photo. It was my car, parked outside my apartment. That's when the fear really set in, because that meant one thing. They didn't just find us that night. They already knew where I lived. This happened when I was 12. It was Halloween, and that year my parents decided to do something different. Instead of walking around our neighborhood, we drove about an hour out to a small family resort that was hosting a Halloween event. It wasn't a big place. Maybe 10 cabins, a main lodge, a small lake, and a wide open field where they had games and a hayride set up. The whole place was surrounded by forest. During the day, it looked peaceful, even cozy. But once the sun started going down, those woods looked different, darker, too dark. We checked into our cabin that afternoon. I remember the smell of campfire smoke in the air, mixed with caramel apples and candy. Kids were already running around in costumes, even though it wasn't night yet. Everything felt normal, exciting. My parents stayed behind to unpack, and I went off to explore. That's when I met another kid around my age. I'll call him Ryan. He was wearing a skeleton costume. We ended up sticking together, playing games, collecting candy, doing all the usual stuff. Eventually, people started heading toward the hayride. It was parked near a barn, a tractor pulling a long wagon filled with hay bales for seating. There were maybe 20 of us total, families, kids, a few teenagers. The driver wore a scarecrow mask, and there were people dressed like zombies hiding along the trail to jump out and scare riders. At first, it was fun. The tractor moved slowly through the woods. Torches lit parts of the trail. People screamed, then laughed. Just normal Halloween stuff, but about halfway through, something felt off. We entered a stretch of the trail that was noticeably darker. The torches were farther apart. The light barely reached the trees. That's when I saw him, standing just outside the light. A man, not in costume, black jacket, jeans, baseball cap pulled low. He wasn't moving, just standing there, watching. At first, I thought he was part of the attraction, but something didn't match. He wasn't trying to scare anyone. He wasn't interacting. He was just observing. And then, I'm pretty sure he looked directly at me, even though I couldn't see his face clearly. I felt it, like his attention locked onto me specifically. I looked around. Nobody else seemed to notice him. When I looked back, he hadn't moved. Same position, same stillness. It made my stomach tighten. But the ride kept moving. Eventually, we passed him, and when the hayride ended, I looked back one last time. He was gone. I didn't tell anyone. Not right away. I convinced myself I imagined it. We went back to the main area. More games, more candy. A bonfire where parents were sitting. Everything felt normal again, until I saw him again. Ryan and I were standing near a snack table. That's when I noticed someone near the edge of the crowd. Same man, same clothes, standing near the tree line, watching, not talking to anyone, not moving, just there. And again. I felt like he was looking at me. I nudged Ryan, told him quietly. He looked over, shrugged. Probably someone's dad. I wanted to believe that, but something in me said otherwise. A few minutes later, he was gone again. By around 9 p.m., the event started winding down. Families heading back to cabins, lights dimming. Ryan and I still had energy, so we decided to walk around a bit. There was a trail behind the cabins that led into the woods. Not far, just enough to feel a little scary. We had flashlights, and honestly, we wanted to mess around. You know, typical Halloween, let's scare ourselves stuff. We walked maybe 200 feet in. The deeper we went, the quieter it got. The sounds from the resort faded away until it was just our footsteps. We stopped near a clearing. There was an old wooden sign nailed to a tree. Private property. We started joking around, throwing small rocks at the sign, pretending to summon something. Then we heard it. Footsteps. Behind us. Slow. Heavy. Not like a kid. We froze. Ryan whispered, "Probably someone else." But it didn't sound like that. It sounded deliberate. I pointed my flashlight down the path. Nothing. Then the footsteps stopped. Silence. And then a voice. "Hey there, boys." It was calm. Too calm. And I knew instantly. It was him. He stepped forward. Just enough for the light to catch part of him. Same jacket, same hat. "What are you doing out here?" he asked. Neither of us answered. Then he reached into his pocket, pulled something out. "Candy." "I've got more," he said. "Back at my cabin." Something in my chest dropped. Ryan stepped back. I grabbed his arm. The man took a few steps closer. "You don't have to be scared," he said. "It's Halloween." Then he said something that confirmed everything. "I saw you boys on the hayride earlier." That's when I knew he wasn't just there. He was watching, tracking, waiting. "Run," I whispered, and we did. We turned and sprinted, as fast as we could. Behind us, footsteps, loud, fast, chasing. I didn't look back. I couldn't. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. The path felt longer than before. Then finally, lights, the resort, people. We ran straight into the crowd, shouting for help. Adults turned, startled. We didn't stop until we reached them. When I turned around, he was gone. Just like before, the path was empty, like he was never there. But we both knew he was, because this time, he chased us. My name is Roger. I'm 29 now, and this happened to me 3 years ago, on Halloween night. I've always liked Halloween. Not in the party sense, more in a quiet way. Watching horror movies, handing out candy, enjoying the atmosphere. At the time, I was living alone in a small house on the outskirts of town. It wasn't completely isolated. There were houses on both sides of me, but once Halloween dies down, that entire street goes silent. And that silence feels different. That year, Halloween landed on a Saturday. Cold air, clear sky, the kind of night where everything feels sharper. Kids were out earlier in the evening. Costumes, laughter, parents walking with them. Normal. By around 9:30, the crowd thinned out. By 10:30, it was over. No more knocks, no more voices. I turned off the porch light, locked the doors, and settled in for the night. I remember sitting on the couch with a bowl of leftover candy, some horror movie playing in the background. Nothing special, just a quiet night, until I heard it. A knock, not loud, not urgent, just 2 soft taps. It came from the side door. That didn't bother me much. Sometimes teenagers come late, hoping for leftover candy. So I got up and walked over, opened the door, no one there. Just the empty driveway. A faint breeze, leaves moving across the concrete. I stood there for a second, listening. Nothing. I closed the door, locked it again, and went back to the couch. I didn't think much of it until it happened again, about 15 minutes later. But this time, it wasn't the side door. It was the back door, and that changed everything. Nobody ever uses the back door. I muted the TV immediately, sat still. That's when I heard it clearly. A slow, metallic sound, like someone gently testing the door handle, turning it carefully, seeing if it would open without making noise. My chest tightened. This wasn't a prank. I stood up slowly and moved toward the kitchen, keeping my steps light, trying not to alert whoever was outside. And then I saw him, through the glass, a man, crouched low near the door, wearing dark clothing, his face partially covered by a cheap Halloween mask, pushed up onto his head, like he didn't need it anymore. In his hand, a crowbar. He wasn't rushing, he wasn't panicking. He looked patient, like he'd done this before, like he knew what he was doing. And worse, it felt like he knew I was inside. I stepped back immediately, grabbed my phone, dialed 911. I kept my voice low, barely above a whisper. There's someone trying to break into my house. The operator told me to stay on the line, stay quiet, find somewhere safe, but I didn't go upstairs. Too much noise, too exposed. Instead, I crouched near the base of the stairs, half hidden, listening, waiting. After a few seconds, the man moved away from the back door. For a brief moment, I thought he left. Then I heard it, a faint snap, the sound of a window screen being removed. My stomach dropped. He's at the basement window. I whispered into the phone. The operator told me officers were already on the way, just a few minutes out. But in that moment, a few minutes felt like forever. Then came the sound that still sticks with me. Glass cracking, not loud, not violent, controlled, like he was trying to break in, without drawing attention. That's when reality fully hit me. This wasn't random. Most burglars avoid houses with people inside. They don't take risks like that. But this guy, he didn't care, which meant he wasn't just there for stuff. He was there for something else. And that something was me. I stayed completely still, phone pressed to my ear, barely breathing. Then I heard footsteps again, outside, moving along the walls, slow, methodical, like he was checking every possible entry point. Then he stopped. Right outside the wall next to me, I could hear him breathing, not loud, but enough. Close, too close. I didn't move, I didn't make a sound, because something in my gut told me, if he knew exactly where I was, things would get worse. Then suddenly, headlights swept across the room. Bright, fast, police. The shift in the air was immediate. I heard movement outside, fast, running. I stood up slowly and looked toward the window. I saw him sprinting across the yard, but he didn't get far. 2 officers tackled him just past the driveway. It was over. At least, that's what I thought. A few minutes later, they walked him back toward the house, in handcuffs. That's when I saw what he had with him, the crowbar, and a bag inside it. Duct tape, zip ties, rope, tools, but not for stealing, for controlling, for restraining, for something much worse. One of the officers looked at me and said something I'll never forget. "You're lucky you called when you did." Lucky. That word didn't sit right, because it meant something else. It meant if I had waited even a little longer, he might have gotten inside. Later they told me more. He had a record, breaking into homes, and in some cases, people went missing. They didn't say much more than that. They didn't have to. That was enough. That night changed something in me. For weeks after, I couldn't sleep properly. Every noise felt amplified. Every shadow looked wrong. Even now, years later, I still double-check every lock before going to bed. And every Halloween, when everything goes quiet again, I remember that night. Because Halloween isn't just about costumes. Sometimes, it's about people hiding who they really are. And sometimes, they're not hiding at all. They're just waiting for the right moment to come inside. Halloween is supposed to be harmless, a night where fear is controlled, where the monsters aren't real, where everything scary stays part of the act. But the truth is, Not everything out there is pretending. Tonight you heard 3 real stories where something felt off and turned into something much worse. A simple night out that almost ended differently. A stranger who didn't belong there at all. And a knock that should never have been answered. The scariest part? None of these people knew what was about to happen. There was no warning, no clear sign, just a feeling that something wasn't right. And sometimes, that feeling is the only thing that keeps you alive. So next time you're out late, next time something feels off, next time you think you're overreacting, don't ignore it. Because not every story ends the way these did. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe for more true scary stories every week. And if you've ever experienced something like this yourself, feel free to share it below. Stay safe, stay aware, and remember, sometimes the scariest things aren't wearing masks.